First of all, I want to thank you and Joyce and Tom for working hard to pull this off in a very short period of time. And yeah, the idea that I had was due to discussions that I've had over the last 6 months with lots of different companies around the world. And it seemed very obvious that the concept of what is the role of robotics in responding to this pandemic is very interesting, very large, and very unifying kind of theme for robotics. And it dawned on me that this is an opportunity, I think, for the community to come together and for mass robotics to take a leading role in bringing that community together and coordinating activities and create sort of a network that is responding to this issue. So that was the concept here. I hope this is one of a series of meetings that we can have with you and many other organizations, companies, and people around the world. And this is a global outreach. And also thank you for the numbers of the Boston community of consulates that are also helping us to reach outside of the US and Europe and abroad. My thinking is that we have an opportunity here to put together a strategic theme for robotics, and that goes across lots of different parts of the value cycle and lots of different types of companies and organizations. So hopefully this is the first discussion we're going to have going forward in the next 12 months or more.
Yeah.
And thanks again, the folks at Mass Robotics.
Thank you, Val. Thank you very much. So without further ado, Morris, do you want to kind of take the floor and tell us more about XENEX?
Sure. Thanks, Fady, Joyce, Tom, Val. Thanks for having me. They're going to, at some point, they'll let me have screen control and I'll present it. I'm going to come in under 5 minutes. If you look over my shoulder on this side, you'll see that there's a robot there. That is the robot that we make. It's called a XENEX Light Strike robot. It's a robot that's used in about 700 facilities around the world. And basically, we're the leader in disinfecting for hospitals is what we've been focused on. The robot itself uses a xenon lamp. The key difference between a xenon lamp and the traditional way of making UV light, traditionally it's made with mercury light bulbs. Mercury light bulbs are a single wavelength of light and they're low intensity. A pulsed xenon lamp is broad spectrum, so it's across the entire germicidal spectrum, and it's about 4,000 times more intense. What that ends up doing is it does a tremendous amount more damage to the pathogens in the environment, and it's those pathogens in the environment that are causing people to get sick. On the easy side, it's easy for us to kill things like bacteria and viruses. So SARS-CoV-2 being a virus, we tested against the actual SARS-CoV-2 in a biosafety level 4 lab, and we were able to destroy it in 2 minutes. In hospitals, we're usually going after a spore called C. diff. That takes about 5 minutes for our robot to kill. And when you think about, well, how efficacious can that be? If you look at those hospitals' reports, people like the Mayo Clinic independently publish their standard infection rates, which were already 23% better than all of their peers. After they deployed this robot within their healthcare facilities, their infection rates, as they report them to CMS, are down 47% from that already industry leading. And we've seen that pretty consistently. So we know that using the robot can solve that problem. My question for Fady when I first met him, as I said, okay, we have versions that move and we have versions that don't move. Does it have to be a moving version to be a robot? And he said no. And some of the unique things that this does, every time it goes into a room, it tells us who ran it, it tells us where it was run, it tells us how many times it was run, it tells us how long it was run. So I can look at you today, at least virtually look at you, although I do see all your faces, and I can say it's run 24,500,000 room disinfection cycles. We track that, we give feedback, we work with the hospitals on best practices. So we know if a hospital was to come to us and say, God, we're not getting results, chances are we can go, well, you're missing about this many of the rooms that you're supposed to hit. If you have a room where the previous occupant had an infection, you've got about a 40% higher chance of getting that infection. So just to close up in less than 4 minutes, it's a robot. We have thousands of them out there. About 30% of our business is outside the United States. Huge adoption in places like Japan, Italy, all over continental Europe, and South Africa. And basically going after traditionally the toughest infections that had been affecting patients. In the unfortunate pandemic, it's created a huge need for the robot worldwide to fight SARS-CoV-2, which we've been able to show in the lab is easy for us to do in 2 minutes. So I'll close my comments there quick, and then I'll be available for any questions later. Thank you.
Morris, thank you very much. This is perfect. I met Morris a few months back, and I was immediately intrigued by the technology, the passion, the deep knowledge he has into the space, and he definitely built an amazing product. Not just a cool technology, but an actual product that he had been commercially deploying. So it's definitely a very cool company, and thank you very much for staying even under the time. So next is Uli, CTO of HighRes Bio. Uli, floor is yours. Uli, we cannot hear you.
There we go. That would be helpful, huh?
Okay, no worries.
I represent HighRes Biosolutions. We're a lab automation company that's up in Beverly, Massachusetts. And our mission is to improve human health through life science robotics. Our customers are, pretty much any big pharma company you've ever heard of has one of our systems, as well as, we sell systems to universities and other biopharma, biotech companies. Just give you a brief overview of what we do. Our core business are these automated systems. They're collaborative, flexible, and modular. They allow our customers to mix and match and expand and contract as needed. We have a liquid handling platform that uses an innovative vertically integrated approach that also has a collaborative robot and built-in storage. It's also mobile, so we can move it around, attach it to our systems. We have a line of storage products and devices, from freezers to incubators. They're all automated, they automatically pick and place plates. We also have an automated centrifuge as well. And lastly, I can't see my screen here. We've got a automation software platform for our systems that uses a drag and drop approach that allows our customers to do science and, like we say, not computer science. Just to give you an overview of our software platform, today these are all desktop applications. We have our software that controls our systems, and we have integration and API products that allow our customers to connect to their lab information systems, as well as informatics and data management systems as well. We have a program in place right now where we're planning to move everything into a new platform that we call Solario Cloud that will move the majority of these interfaces to the cloud space, which will make it easier for our customers, in times like the pandemic where everyone's working remotely, to get better access to their data and their systems. This is just a short video that shows, gives an example of our lab automation, how flexible and modular it is. In this case, this is one of our customers in Cambridge. They use many of our carts and our dock technology, so they can take these different carts, combine them together to build an assay and experiment that they need to run. Allows them to share. Some of these instruments are very expensive, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and allows them to share these instruments across different systems. And if they need to, get a new piece of technology, it's pretty easy for them to just get a new cart from us that they can just add. They don't need to, take a piece of hard automation and break it down and rework it. With the onset of the pandemic, we've been working with many of our customers on the development of molecular and antibody testing. We've designed and implemented systems for most of the major steps, from extraction of viral RNA to actually the RT-PCR setup, which is adding master mix and putting it in a PCR plate format, to automating the loading of the plates into the RT-PCR instrumentation. Right now, a lot of this is done manually, and as you can see, our systems can do upwards of 50,000 samples per day, and you hear about states only doing 10 or 20,000 samples a day. So we think as these systems get adapted, we should start to see a pretty big influx in testing capability. But to give you a real world example of the flexibility of our automation, one of our customers, NYU, has a system that we sold them 3 or 4 years ago. They were using it as a DNA factory running synthetic biology experiments. When the pandemic hit, they repurposed the system to do molecular COVID-19 testing. Once they had their assay finalized, we worked together to use what we call our HighRes common platform, which is the system, the picture on the right. And we've built 4 of these systems, and they're in the process of being delivered in less than 5 weeks from getting the PO from the NYU opening center. From our perspective, the impact of COVID-19 on lab automation, we're seeing our customers looking at implementing more automation to keep their experiments running. A lot of our customers, they basically had to shut their labs down. So they have very minimal people be going in and running experiments. We think we're going to start to see more customers implementing automated systems outside of the typical applications. We've got one customer who's developing antibodies, antibody therapeutics for COVID that has several of our automated systems, and they said they've seen a 35% improvement in throughput and productivity since they've reduced the amount of staff in the lab with the pandemic onset. We also think we're going to see an acceleration of new technologies, such as what we like to call autonomous lab robots. They'll be used to connect existing systems, or what we like to call islands of automation, and also allow for a lot of the lab work is done manually. We think adding capability will allow for some traditional manual assays and experimental steps to be done automatically.
Oli, I have to stop you here. If you
I'm
have
done,
more,
actually. I'm good.
Great.
The last slide was just a video showing one last thing. Our systems are also being used, pivoted to being used for development of coronavirus vaccines.
Amazing, amazing. Oli, thank you very much. And Andy, you're next. Andy is the CEO of Rize. Okay. We cannot hear you, Andy.
So good afternoon, good day, everyone. Thank you, Fari. Thank you, everyone, for joining this roundtable. As Fari mentioned, we are a 3D printing company. My name is Andy Kalambi. I'm the CEO of this company. And our focus is really to provide 3D print that can be put in any place, anytime, anywhere. Idea we have is to really take 3D printing, industrial 3D printing, and make it available for anyone, anywhere. Our focus really, from a 3D printing perspective, is to really produce parts, industrial parts, and these are especially in the robotics area, things like gripper fingers. For manufacturing, it's a host of applications, including applications like measurement jigs, custom jigs and fixtures, and in certain cases, even end-use parts. One of the other things that we do is we are also a full color 3D printer. So in full color, of course, we produce parts like you can see this is a heart, and this is a scan to print application where we take an MRI scan and then are able to print it for basically anatomical modeling, for pre-surgery planning, and these kind of applications. So a host of applications. Yeah, that's a little bit about the company. And of course, you can see Fadi there, and our great customer, Festo, and partner, Nuzha, who's on this call. So we've been working with, of course, Mass Robotics and many initiatives going. Now, a little bit about the pandemic and how we have worked during the last few months. The first step for us was really, I would say, and for many of us, was really to secure our team. And initially, when this started, we never realized how long this thing would go on. But our printer, being a safe printer, some of us moved our printers home, and quickly we realized that, you know, it was pretty much the order of the day. So we had almost all our engineers work with their printers at home. Through this process, we realized, and this is just an example of a printer at home, and this is sitting in one of the gyms of our CTO. And as we started doing this, we realized that we are discovering a new way to work, which we call the adaptive workplace. We connected our environment with technology and just had people continually working, and actually it increased our productivity. We are now, over the last 6 months, we've released 3 new products. We continue to work with our customers, including Fadi and with Festo. So in some ways, it did not really slow us down. And as we came into June, we started seeing this, what I would call the restricted recovery phase. And at that time, we started releasing products. We started, of course, going back to office, but most of our team members have still stayed at home, and most of the printers have stayed at home. And we continue to work in this virtual environment. And in fact, it's been a very productive environment, I should say. And over the period, I think we've discovered a new way to work. And that's what I want to really share with you guys, is that previous speaker mentioned that some of the customers are really shut down, and we realized that, you know, some of these labs are shut down, but it's quite possible to kind of set this up, at least from a 3D printing perspective, and have still the ability to work from home. Now, one of the interesting things that have come as a result of all of this is we got selected by the World Economic Forum as a technology pioneer, and we realized that we are heading into what we feel is a new normal. I mean, we see it in our lives, personal lives. I don't think we'll be exactly the same as what we were before this pandemic started. And we're trying to figure out, what does this mean for the future of work? What does this mean from a new business model, opportunity from a new business model perspective? And I'm sure some of you are also thinking about that. What we're doing here is working with the World Economic Forum to create different ideas and around this whole concept of the future of work, especially in these days. And we are figuring out whether we can create sustainable ecosystems that can drive a new business model, or maybe just expand our current business models. So times have been interesting, I should say. Most important thing is everyone has been safe and secure. And I think there's been a lot of new learning. And of course, we've been able to increase our bonding with our customers, especially with our industrial customers through these last few months. Back to you, Fadi.
Thank you very much, Andy. And yeah, for full disclosure, we have one of Rize printers in our prototyping space, and It's a nice addition to the portfolio of prototyping capabilities that we have. Next, we have Alfons and Nuzha from Festo. Alfons is the VP of Technology and Innovation. Actually, Alfons is based in Germany, so I appreciate that he's participating with us now. It's probably evening his time. And Nuzha, she's out in the New York area, and she's a technology and innovation manager. So to both of you.
Thank you, Fadi. I'm very glad that I can participate at this meeting. The interesting phase we are living now, all of us, we are all facing the same problems worldwide. And that was the reason why we came together very early to talk with Fadi and all the other guys here in Boston. And I feel very connected to you. It's kind of, yes, we try to solve the things we face now with technology. That's our mission we have all in common. So just a few words, and then I will hand over to Nuzha. Festo is a family-owned company, and the goal of a family-owned company in what we call the German Mittelstand is to stay in business for generations. That means we have to be prepared for anything what can come up in life, and the pandemic is such a situation. We all are aware that the world will not be the same. But I think the purpose of the company will stay and will last. And the purpose of Festo, the general purpose of Festo, is to make work easier. And if you now look at the presentation, Nuzha will show you, we offer solution in order to make the work of the future easier. And we have to work in the future on a different way. Andy was mentioning that already. The new normal means that we will somehow continue with the business, and we do not want that the business will be stopped, and to continue the work. So Nuzha, now please, can you go over and tell some figures, numbers, and what we offer in the life tech area?
Okay, great. Okay. So as Alfons mentioned, Festo is an independent family-owned company. We have a global presence with 61 companies, Festo companies around the world. Our headquarters is based in Esslingen, which is in the state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany. The company was founded back in 1925, and today we've got like 21,000, I think, approximately, employees around the world. We also have 13 production locations, logistics and production locations around the world, which support our customers and our sales activities. One of the things, as Alfons just mentioned, what is important to Festo is to make the life of our customers easier. And how we basically approach this is, rather than treating our customer more like, having a vendor-supplier relationship, we're looking more for a partnership with our customers. So we've got about 300,000 customers worldwide in about 30-odd different industries. We do focus, of course, on certain industry segments. About our turnover currently is a little over 3 billion euro, and 1.5% of that is actually put back into the company for the training and development of the employees, including myself. And also 8% goes towards the R&D. So Festo takes great pride in the innovative and engineering technologies. I'm just going to touch, since we have limited time, I'm just going to touch on the life tech side of it. So Festo does serve in many industry segments, like the automotive, food and packaging, electronic light assembly, and so on, and many more. In the life tech group, which is relevant, of course, to the pandemic situation, our day-to-day business involves providing not just components, which is what most people at least perceive Festo to be, like a component supplier, but we also supply subsystems, smart subsystems actually, which are intelligent, connected, which our customers, such as I would say Glaxo or LGC, for example, they would use our subsystems, which actually form 80 to about, in some cases, even up to 99% of the actual final machine. And what advantage that Festo brings in this case is basically we leave the customer to focus on the areas where they're specialized in terms of the applications, and we do the engineering, assembly, and testing. So on the screen, you can see on the left side, some subsystems, these are smart labs as we call them. They're comprised of our pneumatic components, grippers, valves, actuators, but also our electromechanical and Cartesian robotic systems. And these are connected. So basically, we have IoT modules, control platform, so data can be gathered, and also it's used for predictive maintenance as well. So some of the systems that we offer involve Festo standard product, but we also have the in-house ability to customize our components, and in some cases even integrate third-party components where required. So as I mentioned before, being able to supply our customers and easing the design and development of a machine is our primary goal, and to be able to then bring these solutions to the market faster. Some of the applications that we do in the lab automation space are liquid handling, microplate reagent dispensing. We use some of our Cartesian robotics in the automated storage retrieval systems, which we supply, for example, to Thermo Fisher and several other customers. And we do, of course, do component supply. Our piezo valves are very common in the life tech area. They're used in various ventilator and breathing products. And during the COVID situation, Festo was very, let's say, focused on ensuring continuous supply to our customers, such as Philips Respironics, who uses our piezo valves in their breathing technologies, and ventilators as well. And we also supply pumps and components to the Bosch Healthcare, their Vivalytic diagnostics platform. So we are definitely into component supply. That's part of our business, but also, providing that value add to our customers in the engineering design of these smart connected solutions.
This is amazing, and I have to say that Festo is one of our strategic partners, and I personally have been very proud of the engagement that we have had so far. And together, we actually leading the newly formed working group that will be focusing on robotics and healthcare. So if any of you is interested to join this working group, would love to share more information with you, and Tom also will shed some light on that at the end. Nuzha and Alfons, thank you very much for what you shared with us. And last but not least, Youseff, the CEO of Ava Robotics, will speak about what's going on in robotics telepresence.
Hi, I'm assuming everybody could hear me. First, I want to thank Tom, Fadi, Joyce, and Val for organizing this, and delighted to be speaking with all of you. As Fadi said, I'm founder and CEO of Ava Robotics. Just to give you a quick idea of what Ava Robotics is, we're a robotics technology company that designs and builds intelligent mobile robots for commercial spaces. It's driven by and delivering on a vision of robots that seamlessly coexist with people in the workplace. What that means is really the whole technology been designed from concept to where we're at today, that you don't have to change your environment to accommodate a robot that is moving around. And with that technology, it really enables a range of applications, be it fully autonomous or assisting. And these are, I'll just give examples of some of the applications. The telepresence application that has been referred to here is really just one application of what our platform will deliver, and I'll give examples of that. It's important to also give you a little bit of background. The company was a spin-off of iRobot, so significant investment went into that vision and that technology. And we're not your traditional startup. We have actually shipping products, and some of our customers, our Fortune 500 customers, are deploying the telepresence robot that was launched about a year ago. But more importantly is really the platform, and this is what I would love to, during the roundtable, to get some of your thoughts on what could our platform deliver. If you could imagine, you know, a platform that has the spatial intelligence, vision intelligence, environmental intelligence, and is designed to easily coexist in the workplace, regardless if it's an office environment, if it's lab, if it's factory, retail environment, and delivering applications. These applications, as I said, could be telepresence, but it could be, recently MIT reached out to us in an effort to deliver, solve a problem in the Greater Boston Food Bank with UV disinfection robot. That's not your traditional UV disinfection. This is addressing large spaces. How do you take a large space and disinfect it? And when you have a platform that has the ability to understand the space, intelligently move around, has the vision and deal with the dynamic environments, and be able to precisely cover all spaces, is a unique solution that was delivered within weeks from collaborating with MIT because the platform is Riek. Our first solution of telepresence has been deployed, and since we're covering a little bit of the COVID-19 pandemic and how we seen the both the healthcare, elder care environments leveraging this ability of teleporting. We call it teleporting instead of telepresence, meaning the ability for me to be in places that, regardless if it's dangerous or remote. The example I like to use is that some local hospitals here put the robots in the emergency room, enabling doctors, nurses to be able to attend to patients without spreading the viruses or having to use a lot of the PPE equipment, especially when there were shortages around that, all the way to elderly facilities where healthcare providers and family members could not really visit their loved ones, and being able to do that, again, with no requirements or nothing else needed on the other side, meaning me as a user, a family member, in the case of elder care, I could just click a button on my phone or on my web browser and be able to be there and move around in a safe manner. We also piloting kind of facility management type of applications, and I'll try to share a screen. Hopefully, I
think we are out of time. Maybe during the
I've taken 4 minutes. Let me take 1 second. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So let me I just want to visually show what I'm talking about. I don't know why this is double the screen, but it's, imagine this platform, what you see is a modular base, and we have the electromechanical interface as well as the API to deliver many different applications. I'll hand it back to you, Fadi.
Thank you, Youseff. Thank you, everyone. And I think now is the time to have the discussion. I'll start off with a quick question to both Andy and Morris. I think the question that might be going in the minds of many people now is, what are the price range if I'm interested in buying a disinfecting robot from XENEX or a teleportation robot from Ava? How much money we're speaking about in terms of range to have these, and if you have any kind of benchmark about ROIs of using these robots.
So Andy, you want to go first?
Youseff.
Or I'll go first while Andy gets ready.
Yes.
So we've basically, hospitals adopt our robots. They cost about $100,000 a piece. They really look at it in terms of what is the cost per room to disinfect the room. It takes our robot about 5 minutes on each side of a bed to disinfect a room in a traditional hospital. You would do it in a hotel in a total of 6 minutes, 2 minutes in 3 different positions. The cost per room ends up being less than $4, and therefore it kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant. It's less than they're spending on chemistry. It doesn't do materials damage the way that other UV lights damage materials. Therefore, they come out way ahead, including even with labor to move around the robot. It's still less expensive than having somebody to try to accomplish those cleaning and disinfection activities manually.
Nice. Youseff? You're on mute, Youseff.
All right, I was kicked off the meeting. I don't know why. Just dialed back in. Was there a question for me?
Yeah, I was asking, can you give us an idea about the price range and any ROI benchmarks that you have?
Sure. So our, from a business model perspective, the telepresence robot, because that's what's productized today, the customers deploy it either by purchasing a robot or what we call robot as a service. To give you an idea, depending on the size of the deployment, the contract size, it could be as little as $1,000 a month. That gives you, right, unlimited teleportation for the entire organization. That's kind of, price point to keep in mind. Robot cost itself for companies that acquire the robot, it's somewhere around $30,000. For completely outright owning the robot.
Nice. Okay.
I have a question for some of the panelists. I think it's pretty well reported that COVID has accelerated the adoption and certainly the interest of robotics for in the healthcare space. But I'd be interested to hear from the panelists, what additional barriers do you still see? So yes, there's acceleration, but what still stands in the way of really seeing these technologies adopted in your respective spaces? Particularly interested in the lab automation space as one, where it seems like huge potential, but maybe still some barriers to get past.
May I just step in there, Mark? It's a very good question. I feel that the adoption of technology is pretty much not depending on the technology itself, but on the human beings using the technology. So we have a huge demand in training and getting the right mindset for the people using that new type of technology. So from my point of understanding, is the acceptance of robot is somehow there because people are used to work with robots a long time. But still there is this kind of fear or reluctance of using this technology because the training is a big problem. So I think we have to focus there to prepare the right training stuff that people with no skills or low skills can be able, let's say, can be prepared to use the technology.
I can add to that.
To add to what Alfons said, in the lab automation and pharmacy automation space, the robots are relatively small and contained within the footprint of the machine. So investments in terms of changing infrastructure or safety, as with autonomous robots, those don't apply. So I would say the adoption of robotics within a safe boundary of a machine is far more accepted than with autonomous and semi-autonomous robotics.
Yeah, I could add a comment as well. I totally agree that the mindset, the shift in robots being threatening to being an agent of safety and assistant is definitely happening. In our technology and what we deploy, it's easy to use. So the ease of use is not as challenging. Obviously, when you get into automation and other applications, it varies. But I think it is people, it is a process, it is change mindset of what's, and acknowledge, or the knowledge that yes, you could do it. Just like how long, I mean, after COVID-19 now, there's going to be a lot more people working remotely and relying on this technology, the video capabilities. And now for technology like ours, being able to extend that to physical spaces, not just virtual spaces. And it's a process, it's time. In particular for us, for telepresence, one of the value is being in the physical space with other people. But if nobody's in the office today, it's, limitation on the value of being in the physical space. But I think it's people, process, and time.
And I think collaborative robots have really helped us. In the past, we've had systems where we use industrial robot, required guarding, and that's intimidating for the average lab worker, right? We've had a focus for the last 5 years of developing systems that don't require guarding. They use collaborative robots with safety scanners and things like that. So often the users have to go up and access the system. They need to change reagents or add plates. They have to work within the system. So having a system that's open and collaborative has made things much easier for adoption. Also, I think there's a lot of steps, a lot of labs that do everything manually. Things are done under a hood with hand pipetting. And right now, the technology doesn't really exist yet to automate that. I think that's one of the biggest barriers is how do you take an existing lab, which there's tons of them, and apply technology to allow them to automate a lot of those steps.
I had a follow-on question about all of your company's ability to scale. Obviously, you're impacted by the COVID like everybody else on your manufacturing floor. How can you guys keep up with the increasing demand? How are you looking to scale your businesses to supply your robots in these challenging times?
Well, all of our sales are being done remotely. We're quite busy right now, and we're pretty much under full operation. Like the team who needs to be here on our production floor is here. We've got all the safety aspects implemented. Obviously, for the state of Massachusetts, we got a pretty hefty lift to make that happen. But I think we're about a 150-person company, and from any day, we may have 40 or 50 people in the building. Most of engineering, finance, admin is working from home.
Tom, I assume the question you're asking on the production side, and if that's the case, one of the things that we are doing is we usually build, and we don't have a high inventory because of the cost of the product, and kind of not necessarily just on-demand build, but we build to forecast. We've increased that and driving some of the inventory, long lead items to be secured. So that's how we're handling that beyond what we normally would do. Although we manufacture domestically, but yet we have parts that come from other parts of the world.
Yeah, just to step in here, as from viewpoint of Festo, we have many manufacturing sites worldwide, and we didn't have to shut down any one of these. So we were manufacturing in India, in Germany, and so on. What we did is we started to separate the workforce in 2 shifts. That means we put half of the people there, and then after they go, we have half an hour to disinfect, and then the next shift can come. So doing this, we were able to run at full capacity. So we didn't have to stop manufacturing. And we had a special task force re-evaluating the supply chain every day, let's say every hour, and to solve the problem looking at the main points. And this worked quite well. So at this, so we are lucky at this time that up to now it works quite well at Festo too.
Great.
We had a similar situation as what Alfons was mentioning. Pre-pandemic, we had only one manufacturing location, which was in Vermont. We partnered with a company, a Korean company, which had multiple manufacturing sites. So they had sites in China, Korea, and Vietnam. We could continue getting out products, including, in fact, we just got a big consignment of 30 machines just last week, manufactured in Vietnam. So we kind of de-risked a little bit of the supply chain that way.
And I would just say that early in the pandemic, one of Japan's largest automakers has a plant here in San Antonio. And when we thought there might be a supply chain issue, they had shut down their automobile making plant. They literally volunteered to come over and work with us. We spent about 5 weeks of intense focus on supply chain, and our major parts were never a problem. It was always like little connectors, little wires, and other things that you never thought there'd be a shortage of. That's really where we focused and we had to overcome. And now we're producing about 6 to 7 times as many robots on a daily basis as we've ever done. We're still not quite caught up because the orders keep coming in, but we're closing the gap, and maybe in the next 6 weeks we'll be even.
Great. So I have a couple of things to wrap up. I appreciate, first of all, that everybody joining us here on this call. I think we've touched on just a couple of different areas that robotics can impact in a pandemic. There's some areas that we didn't even touch on, like social distancing on the manufacturing floor. I think it's exciting, the work that's being done there by using collaborative robots to really open up the manufacturing floor and allow workers to separate. GE Healthcare, for example, added a bunch of universal robot collaborative arms on their ventilator valve production line to do exactly that. So we're seeing that. We're seeing robotic palletizing really increasing because just again, handling. So many companies are trying to reduce the way that they handle goods. So robotic bin picking and robotic palletizing, it just minimizes the workers' exposure to products. And we talk about mobile robots. We had Ava and others here today. We talked about healthcare and Morris and Ulysses. Those are huge growing areas. Logistics, self-driving trucks and things are taking off. Restaurants and hotels using delivery robots, sanitizing, cleaning robots, all of that. There's a study out by the Research and I think they're called Research and Markets Company that said global industrial robots are going to grow from $44 billion in 2020 to $73 billion in 2025. So a CAGR of just over 10%. And I think COVID is accelerating the shift to robotics in so many different ways. Just some of the other figures. Bain did a study that came out that 3% of grocery shopping is online today or pre-COVID. That has grown to 10 to 15% post-COVID. There's no way that these companies can keep up without the use of robotics and automation. And so we're continuing to see that happen in so many ways. And in Teradyne's quarterly earnings call, they indicated that they expect their sales growth of their universal line to grow between 20 and 35% in the third quarter of 2020. So just a huge growth in robotics. We're obviously excited to see that. We believe that there's room for even more growth. One of the large material handling companies, MHI, did a study that said only 39% of manufacturing supply organizations today are automated. That's expected to grow to 58% in 1 to 2 years and 73% in 3 to 5 years. So the growth is for robotics due to the pandemic is tremendous. And we're excited to host a number of companies in our facility and a number of companies that are on this call that are in the field. And we hope to be able to do more calls like this to get people aware of the technology and what's happening and further discussions. We spent a little bit of time today just introducing some companies. We're looking forward to doing discussions around ways that robots can impact other businesses and hopefully encourage startups to address some of that. So thank you all for joining the call. If there are any other further questions, we've got a couple of minutes. We'll try to keep to 12 o'clock. Happy to do that. Fady, any thoughts?
No, thank you. Well said, Tom. And this is, I think, it's a great conclusion with very clear numbers about the potential of the healthcare market for robotics technologies. I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. We had an amazing turnout, and I think we are seeing all of you from different parts of the world. I want to thank all the speakers and thank you for sticking to the time. And as Tom mentioned, this is planned to be an ongoing discussion. So if you have further questions or if you want to get engaged with the newly formed working group around robotics and healthcare, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to share more information with you. Thank you all. Stay safe and well, and have a great day or evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Master Robotics team.
Thanks. Guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.